Janta. Today we are here with Professor Arun Chattopadhyay of the Chemistry Department of our very own IIT Guwahati. We're here to discuss his and his team's recent success in detecting hyperbilirubinemia, which is a condition in which the compound bilirubin is in high amounts in our blood. Bilirubin is the same compound that in high amounts causes a yellowing of the skin and eyes that we commonly know as jaundice. And jaundice is an indicator for a number of serious conditions such as hemolytic anemia, hepatitis, or obstruction of the bile duct. Besides that, hyperbilirubinemia is especially dangerous towards newborn babies because it can cause a condition known as neonatal jaundice, which can cause seizures and brain damage. So, sir, what I'd like to ask you, can you explain for me and the viewers briefly about your study, your results, and the scientific principles that are behind it?
Okay, we have been working on development of nanotechnology based devices for easy access to healthcare. One of the ideas is that one should be able to detect diseases easily at a lower cost and accessible to larger populace across the world, especially where it is less available, even it's very expensive. So that's the first idea. And nanotechnology and chemistry are the two powerful techniques we can use in devising such devices. This is a part of our projects which have been sanctioned, or which you can call a mandate, by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So this is the idea. How do you detect disease easily at least cost as possible and as low as possible energy intense, and across the board people can use it. So one of them, there are many devices we are developing based on nanoscale particles. What are the properties we use? Optical properties, electronic properties, chemical properties. These combine in making a device. Suppose there are many diseases. Liver diseases are there, cancer is there, then you have Alzheimer, Parkinson, many diseases are there. There are large number of people across the globe, they are trying to detect those diseases with easier techniques and high sensitivity. We have been trying to think that how can we use nanoscale particles for that. So in this particular case, we have used gold nanoclusters, well-defined cluster of atoms of gold which is luminescent. If you shine UV light on them, they will become luminescent, and that change in luminescence we are starting. I will explain to you shortly what exactly we are doing. Shall I explain now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So idea is that suppose you take gold nanoclusters, and nanoclusters themselves are not stable under ambient conditions. They tend to agglomerate, but chemically you can stabilize them using molecules, polymers, and other solid materials. Once you stabilize them and shine UV light, say in this particular case orange light will come out. You may make quantitative measurements, identify them, characterize them, that's done. Now in order to make a device, it is better to have a solid state device. So in this particular case, we have made a film with another polymer. So if you have a polymer P, it is in chitosan or PVDF membrane. It is a commercial membrane. So if you put on them, it is very nice yellowing color. Now from chemistry and nanotechnology, we know this color can change when you put copper ions, such that source of copper sulfate, copper acetate. So initially, if you shine UV light on this film containing gold nanoclusters, that is orange in color, bright, put copper sulfate solution, drop, it color disappears slowly, and in the region where copper is present. Then if you put another molecules which will get rid of the copper from copper 2 as such a chemical reaction can happen with that molecule copper form a complex, then color can come back. In other words, copper ion quenches the luminescence of gold clusters. Moment it form complexes, the quenching disappears and the luminescence comes. We have used exactly that principle in this case. Copper formed complex with bilirubin, and that copper, once you have only copper, luminescence disappears, and if you put bilirubin in liquid or from thumb or other parts of the skin in principle, then it will come back. Idea is that we have on our skin sufficient concentration of bilirubin when somebody is affected by jaundice or hyperbilirubinemia. If that sufficient concentration get transferred and reaction happens, the film is not completely dry, a little bit wet it should be, and the reaction can happen. So chemical reaction and nanotechnology we have combined to make this device.
So, as far as my knowledge, doctors often require quantitative measures of how much bilirubin is there in the blood. So, is this test quantitative?
It is. It cannot be termed as such quantitative. It can be semi-quantitative or qualitative. So there are already established techniques where you can measure how much bilirubin is there in the blood. But suppose that you don't want to take blood immediately, or you want to do preliminary screening. This is particularly developed for preliminary screening, whether somebody has jaundice or not. The preliminary screening can be done. How do you do quantitation? So you use different concentration of copper in the beginning. So these are stoichiometric reactions, and that's how we have devised such that range of concentration you can more or less figure it out. What you do, concentration on the skin versus concentration on the blood, some samples of patients we got, and then we figured out which range of concentration of copper we can use, for which we can say in this range it may be there. It's a qualitative, at most it can be called semi-quantitative.
Okay.
And it's a first screening, not the final confirmatory screening.
Okay. So, so what sort of use case are you sort of targeting it at? I mean, is it correct to say you're looking to use it in a case where basically you want it to cross a threshold value, or that threshold value, if say it crosses a threshold value, and then we say that so and so person has hyperbilirubinemia.
I will extend the question and restate the answer in a different way. The aim is not to just make one-off device and get and do away with it. The aim is to develop a principle. So far, tests are being done using blood sample, urine sample, and stool sample. Majority of the tests. Now, those are generally confirmatory, and there are lots of experiments are done, and you need machines to quantify them. So those are already there. Now, can we develop a principle where you can use molecules, polymers, or some other, even bacteria on the skin for developing diagnosis? Now earlier disease was only germ theory of disease was there, and then now molecular theory of disease is prevalent. We talk about cholesterol level, sugar level, uric acid level. So can we develop a method where from the skin we can develop diagnosis? This is the first aim. This is the case because in this particular case it is already known that bilirubin is deposited in the skin when you have excess in the blood. So this was our target that, and this is one of the diseases which is affecting people across the world. It's especially in the developing world, especially where access to clean drinking water is limited. So in this primary aim is that develop principle, apply in a particular case, see whether it works. If it works, then develop other principle and see whether you can do it. The modern technology allows you to detect with high sensitivity at a very low concentration of molecules, which are markers for diseases. Our aim is use that principle that you can have high sensitivity, low concentration of the diagnosed molecule, whether we can develop. So primary aim was develop a device, develop a principle, apply in the case of jaundice. That's what you have done.
So basically, what you're saying is that though here you're trying to detect hyperbilirubinemia,
Right.
what you are more involved in is creation of a more generic principle that
Right.
you can use for
For other things,
For,
not only
others.
diseases but others, we have something in mind which we are pursuing now and we will disclose in future. We are trying so that this can be a general principle of identification also. That human beings are largely made of molecules and each human being may have some unique signature. We are thinking whether it is possible or not. We don't know the answers, but we are thinking whether each, like initially when fingerprint or imprint invented for that can be signature for unique human beings. Now you have your cornea as a signature also, right? Now we are thinking, can molecules be signature of human being? Of course, DNA is already there, and some proteins may be also signature, but can we identify them externally? That's the question I'm asking. And this is one case where disease can be diagnosed, but in other cases we'll think what we can do. We are already in the process. Using not only this principle, other principles also we'll use.
So coming back to shortly
Right.
to the particular thing here, hyperbilirubinemia, the study used to detect hyperbilirubinemia. What I'd like to know is, I mean, how accurate are these? I mean, because this will probably, give us idea.
In chemistry, in high school you learn preliminary test and confirmatory test. Suppose you are in a place you have no access at all. In those cases, this will be preliminary test.
Okay.
And what we have done, since we are not medical doctors, we have limited access to hospitals. We have not done in large number of cases, in cases where there can be competing reactions also. But we have developed a principle, these can be confirmed by doing larger studies. So our aim is that we indicating tests, like if you take a pH meter, a pH paper, and then measure, you know the generally the pH. If you take a pH meter, you get a better reading. So if you do this test, you will get an idea. Now in future there can be possible technology where this itself can be developed as accurate technology. That we are trying and thinking. I don't know how much will be in terms of success, but we will try. Not only using the principle we have developed, used to develop this device, but other principles we will use also.
So, sir, all of this seems very interesting.
Right.
So, I'm honestly I'm a bit sidetracked because here I was, prepared to talk about hyperbilirubinemia,
Right.
but and one of my questions was whether or not this can be extended to other things.
Right.
But now it's very clear that this is just like you were quoted, a proof of concept
Right.
study, right? So let me go on a tangent here. I mean, can you tell us more about the things that you and your team are working on, and something about the field and
Okay.
the benefits?
Right.
Yeah.
I will give you limited answer to that because we are working on versatile things and some things are on the process. But the basic idea is, can you use principle of physics, principle of chemistry, principles of material science, including nanotechnology in developing devices which are miniaturized, where nanoscale particles with their unique properties could give devices will be useful in healthcare and other applications. Forensic application it could be healthcare. Now in the healthcare, suppose pregnancy test can be done at home. Sugar test can be done with a drop of blood. Now using nanotechnology, can we do tests like that? Many which are already known could be done with greater efficiency, greater ease, lower cost. That is one way. And since I am a scientist, I am always thinking of developing new principles. Can we develop new principle of molecular identity of diseases? This is one. First, maybe, at least in terms of success, this may be an indication that this could be generalized in certain cases, and we will know in the coming days how successful we are as we go along.
Sir, so finally, I mean, what is the one thing about this particular study or other, this general line of research that excites you the most?
First is that science is very, very important. I'll give you an example why I like science and why society should invest in science. Science is like a child to be. When a child is born, parents, society, government invest on the child. And they do not care whether child will become big in terms of achievement or not, but they still invest with the hope. And some of the children will really make important contribution directly, some will do indirectly. Our aim is that pursue science as much as possible, involving physics, chemistry, engineering, in mathematics also, and biology, and then apply for modern technology. What is modern technology? One of them is nano, and chemistry-based technologies are also there, physics-based technologies are there. Can you learn all of this as much as possible and develop something which will be unique in idea, unique in implementation, and benefit a larger population? That's the fundamental idea. So we are pursuing science using spectroscopic techniques, using techniques of lithography, using techniques of chemistry, using techniques of other material science, and solution chemistry also. So these and nanotechnology we are pursuing together, so that idea is that this is one step where we have bilirubin concentration in the blood is reflected in the skin. This was already known. We have done qualitative test for that. Now can you do more quantitative? That is the next step. Can you have another device which will give you, instead of optical, electrical signal, where you can quantitate even better? That's also we are thinking. And can you do another technique where your sensitivity is so high such that you can know whether person had how much bilirubin in the blood by skin or not? That we don't know. Whether some other molecules in the skin can be used as diagnostics or identification of people. That we are thinking, but we'll know in future whether it will be possible or not.
Thank you, sir, for all your words. Finally, sir, is there anything else you'd like to add on this topic, or a message you'd like to share with our viewers and especially the campus Janta?
Yes, I have been trying to tell in my class to all my engineering students that science is really beautiful and one should pursue that as much as possible. It's not that you don't want to become somebody else, engineers, medical doctors. But in our country and in the world, we will benefit more if our engineers and medical doctors pursue science vigorously. Because we have extraordinary students who should be able to pursue extraordinary science and technology. And it will be possible in next 20-30 years. Imagine when by the year 2080, when you will be approximately what? It will be around 75 years old or somewhere around that. And then you will be asked questions, what is your contribution in life? What did you do in science? Do you know everything in science? How much you have made? So for my students, I will say that try science sometime in your life if you can, enjoy it, and whenever it appears boring, it may also have something great. I will tell you what chemistry to me appears to be. When you first time do cooking, you don't like it. But as you grow old, you get better at it, you enjoy, you try to create new recipes. Chemists got the power to change the properties of matter. And that power nature has gifted to chemistry. And that if you learn a little bit, apply physics, apply engineering, you can make a lot of difference to the society. And my final message is that I believe those who have the gift of nature being smart or smarter also have the responsibility of the nature, that those who are not endowed with those gifts should be taken care by those who are endowed with those gifts.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
sir. That was a wonderful interview. Anish, signing off.
Thank you.